Early Bird YouTube channel brought to you by Red Heart Yarns. In this video, I will show you how to make the Shark Puppet Scrubby. This is a fantastic little scrubby that, look, you literally put your hand in and it's a puppet. How much fun is the toddler in your life gonna have with this? Or maybe you have, maybe your husband's gonna really enjoy something like this in the bath time, or maybe this is the way to get them to do the dishes. This little scrubby is so much fun to make, and it's relatively easy. It uses simple stitches, but combine the simple stitches with the scrubby yarn and the unique construction of the bits and pieces. That's what makes it just a little bit tricky. But hey, that's what I'm here for, is to show you how to navigate those waters. See what I did there? If you want this pattern, it is free over on the Red Heart website. You can find a direct link to that right down there in the video description box below. And while you're down there, smash that like button, as my kids say, so that other people know you enjoyed this video. Once you have the pattern, go ahead and follow along with me as I show you how to make this little shark pattern, and I'll give you tips and tricks along the way to make it a little bit easier for you. Go ahead, grab that pattern, and let's get started. This shark puppet scrubby is made in various parts. The first part is actually the top of the shark. So as we look down here and I fold the shark like so, we are going to begin at the tip of the nose and increase out, and then work the body of the shark even, and then decrease down. Once we do that for the top, we will then do two portions for the bottom. So we'll do one for the bottom jaw and one for the back end of the shark. Once we have those bits done, the instructions want us to sew the whole body together, but I'm going to have you pause for a minute before we do that. We are going to go ahead and we're going to jump to the mouth bit. So we will make the top portion of the mouth and the bottom portion of the mouth. And then what we are going to do then is seam this bit together, create the teeth, and then we are going to sew the body to the mouth. And the reason we will do that is because it makes the placement of the bottom jaw of the shark and the back half of the shark a little bit easier to see. Once we have all of those sewn into place, the last part of the shark is, of course, the fins. And these are made really simple with some simple increases and decreases made in the same row so that you create a nice angle to the fin, and then you finish it off with some nice decreases so that we get a really cool shark fin. We'll sew those onto the body of the shark, and there you go. Fish are friends, not food. Let's jump in. We're going to move this shark aside and we will get started. I will grab my Red Heart Scrubby yarn, and I am using the color Glacier here for the video. And I am going to use a size J or a 6mm hook, just because it makes the stitches a little bit larger and easier for you to see on film. The pattern calls for a size H or a size 8, which is a 5mm hook, but honestly, the gauge isn't absolutely critical to this pattern, so use the hook size that gets you the size shark you want. We will begin with the top of the body of the puppet. So we will put a slip knot on our hook and we will chain 4. If you need a more detailed instructions on how to do the chain stitch or the single crochet stitch, you can check out my videos. Just click on that little link right up there and you'll find the beginner videos for those sections. Because this is an easy pattern, I'm going to go rather quickly through these stitches. Once you've chained 4 stitches, if this is the first time you've ever worked with scrubby yarn, you can obviously right now tell it's a little bit difficult to see the stitches. What you need to do, and this is how I think of it, I kind of let my eyes I want to say fade a little bit, to where I let the nubby bits of the yarn kind of disappear in my eyes, and I find the more solid section of the yarn. As you look at the scrubby yarn, you can see it has a nice core to it, and then it has the nubby bits that kind of come off like eyelash. So I want to ignore the eyelash portion and really find the chain, just like any sort of crochet chain. I will do a single crochet in the second chain from the hook and in each one to the end of the row. So I will end up with 3 single crochets by the end of this row. Once I get to the end, I will move on to row 2 of my puppet. So at the end of the row, I will chain one and turn. You can turn and chain one, it really doesn't matter. Now, we will begin with a single crochet into the first single crochet, and then in the next single crochet, we will do 3 single crochets. If you're still having a hard time finding where the stitch is with the scrubby yarn, use your fingers and find the post of the stitch of the next stitch you're going to work into. And once you find the post, you can find where the top of that stitch is, and you can put your hook in there. Takes a little fiddling, but I promise you, you will get it. So there's 1 single crochet, there's 2 single crochet, and here's the 3rd one into that same stitch. If I can get that in there. And then I'll put a single crochet in the last stitch. So I went from 3 stitches to 5, and you can already see I'm starting to get a nice curve. Rows 3 and 4 are worked identical to each other, and we are going to work some increases. So let's go ahead and do those. We start off with a single crochet into the first single crochet. Now we want to put 2 single crochet in the next one. So we'll do 1 and 2. We'll single crochet into each single crochet across until we get to the last 2 single crochet. Now remember, on this row, we are working only into 5 stitches, which means we only have 1 single crochet to do before we get to our last 2 single crochet. Now that we're here, I can do my increase in the next one, which is 2 singles, and then I will put my solitary single in the very last. So I went from 5 stitches and I increased at 2 points, so now I have 7 stitches. I will chain 1 and turn, and I will repeat that row. So we put a single crochet in the first stitch, 2 single crochets in the next stitch, so there's 1 and 2, and now we will do single crochets evenly to our last 2 single crochets. So I will do 1, 2, and 3. That puts me to the last 2 single crochets, so I'll do an increase. There's 1 and 2, and then I'll 1 single crochet to end it, which gives me a total of 9 single crochets completed on this row. So this is what your work should look like at this point. You're starting to get a curve to it. This is the nose of the shark, and we're getting this nice curve. Row 5 is going to have us put our increases right in the center of the body. And what I want you to do is grab a stitch marker, because it is helpful to put a stitch marker in the center of these increases, so that way we know where we need to build our increases on the subsequent rows. I've grabbed my stitch marker, and I will go ahead, I will chain 1 and turn. And following row 5, I will put a single crochet in the first 4 single crochets. There's 1, 2, and 3, and 4. Now I want to do my increase. So in this next single crochet, I will put 3 single crochets. There's 1, here's 2, and after that second one, I'm going to take my stitch marker and I'm going to put my stitch marker into the top of that stitch that I just completed, okay? That's going to let me know that that is the center of my increases here. And now I need to put 1 more single crochet into that stitch. So I have 3 stitches into 1, and that leaves me with 4 stitches to work single crochets in to the end. 3 and 4. At the end of this row, you'll have something that looks a little bit like this. Rows 6, 7, and 8 are also increase rows, and you will be placing that increase of 3 single crochets into the center single crochet of the previous row. That's why it was so important that we use the stitch marker to mark that stitch. Let me show you how this will work. I will chain 1 and turn, so I'm beginning row 6. I will single crochet to the center single crochet, which is marked. I also could say I know that that's going to be 5 single crochets. So there we go, we're to the center single crochet that we have marked. I can go ahead and I can remove this stitch marker, and I will place 3 single crochet into that stitch that was marked. There's 1 and here's 2, and I will go ahead and mark the second one again because we will want to place a stitch there as well on the next row. And I'll put 1 more into that center stitch. So there's 3. And now I just single crochet all the way to the end of the row. When I get to the end of the row, I will chain 1 and turn and work the same row again. So let's do that. Let me get to the end of the row here. Chain 1, turn my work, and then I will single crochet to that marked stitch. The instructions specifically say single crochet to the center single crochet of the 3 single crochets of the previous row. But see how much easier it is just to have that stitch marked? You can be like, okay, I just need to single crochet all the way to that marked stitch. There's the stitch, stitch marker. Take that out, place my 3 single crochets here. So there's 1, here's 2. I'm going to place my stitch marker there because remember I have to do 1 more increase into that stitch. And I'll put 1 more there, so there's 3. And then I will single crochet to the end of my row. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So that was row 7. Last row, we need to do row 8. So we chain 1 and turn. We'll single crochet all the way up to the marked stitch. And we will do an increase once again. This will be our last increase. So there we go. Keep going all the way up to that marked stitch. Almost there. In this stitch, I can remove my marker, place my 3 stitches right here into this last, or into that center single crochet. 1, 2, 3. And then I'll single crochet to the end. When I get to the end of this row, I will have 14 single crochets and 1 3 single crochet set for a total of 17 single crochets. So this is what your work should look like right now. Looks kind of like a trapezoid, doesn't it? But that's okay, because on the following rows, we will work regular single crochets back and forth without any increases or any decreases, and it will straighten out our work. So I know that you know how to do regular single crochets back and forth, so I'm not going to show you how to do that. It's basically just chain 1, single crochet along the row, chain 1 and single crochet back. The biggest thing I want to point out is that you will do that for rows 9 through 25. If you want to know exactly how many rows you've done, I want to recommend using stitch markers on the side of your work. Every time you finish a row, put a stitch marker in that row and just let them hang out there. Then you're able to go back and count your stitch markers. So you could go 9, 10, 11, 12, all the way up to 25. Or the instructions actually have it written out that they want you to work this entire piece from nose to the part that you're going to finish until it measures 6.5 inches, which is what I've done. So I'm going to set this aside, and I've pulled in this next section. So this bottom bit down here is just like what we just did. This bottom blue part is what we just did. This green section is the next rows. So it's the rows 9 through 25. And you can see that just by doing the plain single crochets back and forth without any increases, eventually your work straightens out and you get to a straight point. So from here to here, I have 6.5 inches. Okay. I decided that I wasn't going to mark every row. I decided I was going to use just the measurement because it's easier for me, especially with the scrubby yarn, just to use measurements. Once you reach the 6.5 inches, it's time to move on to row 26. So let me go ahead and get you started on that. Row 26 begins with a chain 1, and we will single crochet in the first single crochet. Now we will work a single crochet 2 together, and this is going to decrease our work so that way we begin to get some shape. So I go into the stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, and pause. I will go into the next stitch over, yarn over, pull up a loop, and pause. So I have 3 loops on my hook, yarn over, draw through all 3 loops, and that's a single crochet 2 together. Now I will single crochet in each single crochet across to the last 3 single crochet, and I will do a decrease again and end with a regular single. So let's get to the end of this row, which will leave us with 3 single crochets to work into. So here are my 3 single crochets. I will do another single crochet 2 together. So I yarn over, pull up a loop, go into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, draw through all 3 loops, and I will end with a single crochet. On row 26, we decrease 2 stitches. Rows 27 and 28, we will work evenly without any increases. So you just single crochet back and forth. When you get to the instructions that say 29 through 31, it says repeat row 26. So we will literally just repeat row 26 for row 29, 30, and 31. As you look down here, I've already completed row 27 and 28, so it's time to begin row 29, which is a repeat of row 26. So we chain 1, do a single crochet in the first single crochet, and then we will do a single crochet 2 together, and then single crochet to the last 3 stitches. So let's get to those last 3 stitches. There's 2. There is that. All right, so onto the last 3 stitches, I will do my decrease again. So there is my single crochet 2 together, and then 1 single crochet to end with. Chain 1 and turn. So the instructions still say repeat row 26 for row 30, so we'll do that again. So I single crochet in the first stitch, work a single crochet 2 together over the next 2 stitches, and then single crochet to the last 3 stitches. To the last 3 stitches, I will work my single crochet 2 together, and then finish with a single crochet. Chain 1, and this will be my last row. So I will single crochet 2 together, single crochet to the last 3 stitches, there we are. I work my single crochet 2 together again and finish with my single crochet. The instructions say now to leave a long tail so that way we can use it to seam the shark together. You also have a choice to use what the designer called carpet thread, which is just really sturdy thread to use to seam everything together. It's really your choice what you want to do. I'm going to go ahead and leave a long tail, and then I will also show you how to use thread to seam everything together also. Is the body of the shark. So this literally is the top portion of the shark. And again, I did mine in different colors, that way you could see each section. But this back half here, this is the back half of the shark, this is the center body, and this is the tip. Once you have the top body of the shark completed, it's time to make the bottom body of the shark, which is really simple because it's just a repeat of everything you just did. So you literally already know how to do that and don't need me to show you. But let me show you what the pieces look like. As I pull these in, I did do them in different colors. This here is the front portion, so this is the front section of the shark for the bottom. And if I were to set that down right there, and then this is the back portion of the shark. I did it in green, and I could set that down right there. You can see here that it looks a little bit different, right? Like you kind of want to pull this up and have it so that the bottom jaw is lined up with the top, and maybe the bottom halves are lined up down there. But that's really not what you want to do. You want the bottom half to be partnered up, yes, but you want this top portion to actually be shorter because the bottom portion of the shark jaw is smaller than the top. That can be a little bit tricky, which is why at the start of the video I mentioned I don't want you to seam everything together at this point. We want to make the mouth first. So even though the instructions say to assemble at this point, I want you to pause. I want you to set these pieces aside, and let's go ahead and make the mouth. Before we move on, I do want to point out, you can see here where I added the stitch markers, so that way I could really keep track of the rows I was working on, so that way the bottom section of the bottom of the body would match up with the bottom section of the top of the body. I wanted to make sure that they would line up evenly. So that's why I have those stitch markers there. You don't have to use them, but I did leave them in place. That way you could see how they could be used in order to really make sure one section matches up to another. So now that we have the top of the body complete, and you can follow the instructions for the bottom of the body because it's just like what we just did, I'm going to set this aside and let's move on to the mouth. Are you ready for the mouth of the shark? It is just as easy as making the top portion of the shark. Take a look down here. As we look at the mouth of the shark, you can see it really resembles the body of the shark that we completed, which makes sense because the mouth is actually going to go right here in this portion of the body. So you will make the mouth very similar to how you made the top of the body. You will start off with a chain 4, and you will work rows 1 through 4 just like you did the top of the body. Row 5 is slightly different in that you will simply do single crochets all across row 5. Instead of placing those 3 single crochets in the center, you are just going to single crochet all the way across, giving you 9 single crochets. Then the instructions have you go back for rows 6 and 7, and you will follow the instructions identical to the top of the body, which has you placing 3 single crochets in the center of the 3 single crochets of the row before. But what did I just say? We aren't placing 3 single crochets in the center of the row before. So what you will need to do is you will work 4 single crochets and then put 3 single crochets in the next stitch. Make sure you mark the center one, and then finish with 4 single crochets. That'll be your row 6. Row 7 then will just build on row 6, where you will have single crochets all the way up to your marked stitch, place 3 single crochets into that marked stitch, and then single crochet straight to the end. So that's rows 6 and 7. You already know how to do it. Don't let it be confusing. It's pretty common sense, and you can follow along with the pattern. Once you get past row 7, the instructions for rows 8 through 16 have you just single crocheting back and forth. So there is no shaping, there's nothing else. You're just creating a nice straight piece to the mouth. You can see here where I have used markers, that way I could count the exact number of rows I completed, and you can do that too. Once you've done the top of the mouth, you will then create the bottom of the mouth, which is identical to rows 1 through 11 on the top of the mouth. So once you've done this, you can do this. There's no need for me to show you how to do them. And you can see, once again, I did use markers to mark off the various rows that I was working. At this point, the instructions say that we want to seam together the top of the mouth to the bottom of the mouth. So what I wanted to do, because I didn't want to do any seaming with a needle, I decided that doing a slip stitch join would work just as well. So I have the top of my mouth right here and the bottom of my mouth, and I'm just going to set one on top of the other. And yes, the bottom mouth is going to be shorter than the top. I have left my yarn active here, so I did not finish off my very last stitch on my bottom of my mouth, and I'm simply going to go through stitch for stitch, so 1 stitch on the bottom and 1 stitch on the top, and I will work a slip stitch. So I will yarn over and pull that stitch through. So I have 2 stitches on my needle, my hook here, and I will pull that second stitch through the first. Hopefully, let me try this one more time. Go into the stitch, 1 on each side, yarn over, pull up a loop, and then pull that loop through. I'll go to the next stitch over on both sections, yarn over, pull up a loop, and pull that loop through. I will do this all the way down, and what I'm doing is I'm joining the top of the mouth to the bottom of the mouth, so that way it will be in one piece. And this is important that you do this at this point in time, because once the mouth is seamed together here, we will add teeth to the mouth. So that is the next step. So we need to have our mouth completely joined. And again, I'm just using slip stitches to join rather than using the thread or doing a whip stitch or anything like that, because I felt like it was a good point to just use slip stitches through the work that we have active here, and then I don't have to weave in any extra tails because everything's already attached. And I can get through both stitches here. It gets a little tricky sometimes. As you know, by this point of working with the Scrubby yarn, you just kind of have to force your needle in or your hook in. What's great is the little nubbies on the yarn hide a multitude of sins. When you get to the end here, go ahead and finish off your work. And I'm not going to worry about having a super long tail for this, just long enough that I can weave in my tail later. And so this is what I have. I have the top of the mouth joined to the bottom of the mouth, and I can go ahead and remove all of these stitch markers at this point as well. Once I remove the stitch markers, it's going to be time to work the teeth around the mouth. Once I get the teeth around the mouth, we are then going to join the mouth to the body sections that we completed before. The ones that I told you to hold off on and don't join yet, we will join the mouth to those after the teeth are completed. So that's the next step of this process. For the teeth, the instructions state that we are to hold the mouth open flat with the right side facing. So this is the side that's going to open up with the puppet. Then we are to join our color C, which is the coconut color, with a slip stitch to any row. So we're going to work along the edges around our mouth here. So I am just going to start here, right here at this point. So I will just go in and be willy-nilly with it. Don't really fret about how you're joining or where you're joining. So I joined with a slip stitch. I will chain 2 and then slip stitch in the second chain from hook. So I chain 2, I skip 1 chain, go into the second chain and work a slip stitch. So it's like a picot. So that's going to be a tooth, okay? Now over the next 4 rows, I will just slip stitch. So there's 1, 2, 3, and 4. And again, if you're not able to see the rows, that's okay. Just go ahead and get the stitches as evenly spaced as possible. Once you've slip stitched 4, you will chain 2 and you will slip stitch into the second chain from hook again, and that gives you a tooth. And you will then go along and slip stitch down the rows as evenly as possible once again and do another tooth. Pretty simple, right? Chain 2, put a slip stitch in the second chain from hook, gives you a little picot, and then you carry on, just working along the edge, just slip stitching all the way around. Again, it's just as even as possible. If you want your shark to have more teeth than what the instructions state, you know what? It's your shark. You can do anything you want with it. You could have a tooth every other stitch if that's what you want to do. It's completely up to you. Make it your own. Now that you have the mouth complete, we can go ahead and start to assemble our shark. And let me show you what we're going to do. Since we know the mouth opening is, pretty standard. It's set in stone. This is the way it is. We now know that when we bring in our body pieces, how it's going to be set up. So if we were to go ahead and take the bottom portion of our mouth and connect it to the bottom portion of the body right here, can you see how that works? We can begin to seam that into place. And we now know that this top portion would connect to the top portion of our body, and we can seam that into place. Once those two pieces are seamed together, we can close the mouth of our shark and then begin to see where the placement of our body pieces would go. So everything else would then be joined together really easily. You can decide if you want to use carpet thread or really strong craft and button thread, or just the scrubby yarn to seam everything together. I will go ahead and use craft and button thread, and I will just go ahead and thread some onto a needle and literally just sew the pieces together. Once you have the pieces lined up, go ahead and cut your thread and put it through your needle, and simply make sure that the tips are lined up, so the bottom mouth is lined up to the bottom portion of the body of the shark. And I am just coming down here and I'm literally going to go through both the mouth and the portion of the body that I'm working into. And as I come up, you can put a knot down there at the bottom to get it to snag. It's up to you. But then you can decide if you want to do a back stitch, a whip stitch, anything works for you just to seam the pieces together. So I decided that if I just went up and down through each stitch versus a whip stitch, I didn't want to do a whip stitch because I didn't want to see on the outside. But because of the construction of the scrubby yarn, simply just catching the edges just like so, nothing is visible as the stitches are worked. So it's all hidden. Nothing shows up at all. And I'm just sewing the mouth to the body, whether it's the top of the mouth to the top of the body or the bottom of the mouth to the bottom of the body. Once the mouth is attached to the body, you can then sew the body in place where it needs to be seamed. So you'll notice that there will be extra fabric that's not worked into the mouth. You see right here, here's the bottom of the mouth, and here's the bottom portion of the shark. And that section here actually will get sewn to that bit of the shark right there. So you want to make sure that we're going to sew this bit to that bit so that it's joined together, and this opening is left open so that way you can have your hand in there for the puppet. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to get this all seamed together, and then I will show you how to make the fins, which are really simple, and then you will simply sew those onto the body and your little shark will be complete. You've assembled your shark and it should look a little something like this. I have sewn the mouth to the bottom portion of the body and the top portion of the body, and I have sewn the back half. And you'll notice I've only sewn the sides, okay? So I've only sewn the sides. I left the back portion where I will put the tail open. And the reason I've done that is because on the actual sample that was made by the designer, the back half is open. I can put my fingers in there. So I know that this back half is supposed to be opened, even though that's not written in there. And what will happen is when we make the back tail fin, we will sew one to this side and we will sew one to that side, and then we'll sew the whole two pieces together. And that's what I will use this long tail for. So that way you can see how to seam it on with the long tail of the scrubby if you chose to do that. So let's go ahead and learn how to make this portion, and this is the tail. So you need to make two of these tails, and we are going to make the this whole portion of the tail first, then we will make the upper fin and we will make the lower fin all in one tail, and then we'll do this twice. Okay, so this is the first one, so we need to make the matching one to that. So I'm going to set this aside for now, and we will grab our glacier color again, and we will start with the tail. And the instructions say to begin with a chain 10. So I'm putting a slip knot directly onto my hook, and I will chain 10. Now I will put a single crochet in the second chain from hook and in each one all the way across the row. So I skip one chain, go into the next one, place a single crochet, oops, and then do one all the way across the row. So I will be left with 9 single crochets when everything is said and done. So there's that many, and I will get all the way to the end here. Hopefully by this point with working with the scrubby yarn, you're able to really see where to place your hook. And you've noticed that it hides a multitude of sins. So if you accidentally skip a stitch or put 2 stitches into one, it really doesn't show. Once you get to the end of the row, we will chain 1 and turn, and we will put 2 single crochets into this first single crochet. So we will place 2 single crochets into that, and we will single crochet all the way across to the last stitch where we will put 2 single crochets into that one. And we will do this same portion of the instructions for this row and the following row, which will let us increase our total number of stitches by 4, because we are increasing at the start of the row and at the end of the row. So I'll get to the end here and I will put 2 single crochets here at the very end. So that would be my row 2, and now I can do row 3. So I will put 2 single crochets here at the start, and then single crochet until I get to the last stitch, and I will put 2 single crochets into that last stitch. And that will put me getting ready to do row 4. And row 4 is really easy because it's just single crochet all the way across those stitches without an increase. So we know how to do that also. So I will go ahead and work my 2 stitches right here, and then I will do my row 4, which is a chain 1, turn, and then single crochet all the way to the end of this row. I still have 13 single crochet and I'm ready to begin row 5. So I chain 1 and turn, or turn and chain 1, your choice. I will place 2 single crochet into this first single crochet. I will single crochet in the next 4 single crochet. So there's 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 2 single crochet in the next. So there's 1 and 2. Then it says that I will leave the remaining stitches right here unworked. So I'm going to leave those remaining 7 stitches unworked. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab my marker at this point, and I am just going to mark the front of my work right here. And this will help me so that way when I come back to do this side of the fin, I know which side is my right side. So I am ready to start the instructions for the upper fin, but I will only work these upper fin instructions along this side of the tail. So for row 6, we repeat row 4, and row 4 was just the regular single crochet row, remember? So row 6 and 7, we just repeat row 4. So we are just going to single crochet across the 8 single crochet that we have set I want to say set aside right here, okay? So I'm just going to do that for 2 rows. Once I finish those 2 rows, I will then begin a shaping row. So row 8 has us do a chain 1, and we immediately jump into a single crochet 2 together, which we know how to do because we did that on the back half of the body of the shark. So I went into 2 stitches and pulled up a loop for each one, yarn over, draw through all 3 loops on hook. Now I will single crochet in each stitch across to the last 2. So I just did those 2. So I will single crochet to the last 2 stitches. Here I am to the last 2 stitches right here, and I will single crochet 2 together again. So there's 1 and 2. And I will pull through and have those single crochet. That leaves me with 6 single crochet left. Row 9 is a repeat of row 4, which is just single crocheting all the way across. So without any shaping, I am just going to single crochet all the way across these 6 stitches. 5 and 6. Row 10 is a repeat of row 8. So row 8 is our shaping row. So we will begin with a chain 1 and turn, work a single crochet 2 together over the first 2 stitches. So there's my 2 together, and then I will single crochet into each stitch to the last 2 stitches. Here they are, and I will single crochet 2 together here. So I yarned over, pulled up a loop, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, draw through 3. So I'm left with 4 stitches. Now I will do row 11, which is a chain 1 and turn, and I will do a single crochet 2 together twice. So I will yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull up a loop as I work into both of those stitches. Get my yarn settled here. Yarn over, draw through all 3. And then I do that one more time. Go into the stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, go into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, draw through 2. I'm left with 2 stitches, so on the very last row, which is row 12, chain 1 and turn, and I will work a single crochet 2 together over those last 2 stitches, and I can finish off my work. Now I'm not going to leave a super long tail on this one because I did leave one on the last bit of my body, which you remember, so I'm not going to worry about leaving a long tail with that. So that is the top portion, okay? So that's my upper fin. But now I need to come back over here to these stitches that I didn't work when I started working the upper fin, and I'm going to make the lower fin. So right here the instructions say with the right side of row 5 facing. So this is the side, and I know that because I marked that. Remember when I marked that stitch? So I can remove that marker now. The instructions say that on this row we will skip the first single crochet and we will join with the single crochet in the next one. So for a standing single crochet, you work with a slip knot on your hook. You place your hook into the stitch you want to do the single crochet. Yarn over, pull up a loop. With that slip knot on your hook and the new loop on your hook, it looks like a single crochet, right? So you yarn over, draw through 2. So that's 1. You will put another single crochet into that same stitch and into each stitch across to the very end, where you will place 2 single crochets in the last stitch. That will give us a total of 8 stitches for this portion of the fin to begin with. Now the instructions say we will repeat rows 7 through 12 for the first fin. So we simply go back and do exactly what we did for the first fin. So for row 7, that was a simple single crochet all the way across because it was a repeat of row 4. And then we will jump in to our shaping row for row 8. And we will begin row 8, which is our shaping row. I'll show you how to do that once again. You go into the first stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop. Go into the second stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, so you have 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over, draw through all 3. So we did a decrease. Then we will single crochet all the way down to the last 2 stitches and work another decrease. Since I've already shown you how to do this, I'm going to go ahead and finish this fin. You do the same thing. Join me back here and we will join the fins together and then to the body. Once you finish the lower fin, it should look a little something like this. It's a little bit smaller than the top fin, but that's perfect. And once you make 2, they will fit together just like so. Then what you will want to do is bring in your shark that you've pre-assembled, and you don't want to sew the fins on like this, right? You don't want the shark to have fins like this. You want them to be up and down. So what you want to do is take the body of the shark that you've already sewn. Obviously mine looks really goofy with all the green and the blue. Yours will be one color. If you left a long tail as it states in the instructions, this is where we can use it to seam together the tail on the back half of the shark. Go ahead and take your bent tip tapestry needle and thread your tail into the needle. And then we can simply match up each fin, the flat edge of the fin, to the flat edge of the shark. So I can use my tail here, and I am simply just going to whip stitch right through the bottom here, and I will start and just match this up, and I will grab over here to this edge and just stitch it together. And I will have this follow along all the way along this edge. And when I get up along here, I can choose to go ahead and seam this together here, or just flip this over, put this one in place, and then continue along this way, and then come back and seam this together. Flip this back over, and I'm literally just going to whip stitch along. What's really great is working with the scrubby yarn. It hides so much of this, especially if you do it all in the same color. Once you've attached the tail, now we can go ahead and make the fin, which is really easy because we're still using single crochets. What's going to make this a little bit different than what we've done all along is we are going to couple a decrease and an increase within the same row. So what that will do is not adjust our number of stitches in that row, but it's going to make our stitches slant, which will give us this really cool fin look. So I've created one, you need to create 2, and I'm going to show you how to make the second one. For the top fin, you begin with the same color that you use for the body of the shark, and you start off by chaining 8 and then working a single crochet in the second chain from hook and in each chain across, giving you 7 single crochets. You then begin to work row 2, which is a chain 1 and turn, or turn and chain 1, and we will single crochet into each one of those 7 single crochets. So there's no increasing or shaping or anything like that here at this point. So I'm going to get across these 7 single crochets, and we will jump to row 3, which is where we begin to do some shaping. And row 3 begins with our chain 1, and we immediately jump into a single crochet 2 together. So we go into the stitch, pull up a loop, go into the next stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, draw through 2. We've been doing this all along. And then we'll single crochet across to the last single crochet. So the last one, and we will put 2 single crochets into that one. So we are working an increase. So here's my last one, and I will put 2 single crochets into this last stitch. So even though I've done a decrease down here, I've compensated for it by placing an increase down here. So I still have 7 single crochets. I will then work row 4, which is a chain 1 and turn. I will put 2 single crochets down here, so I'm working my increase at this end. And now I will single crochet across the row to the last 2 stitches, and I will work a decrease. So I will work my single crochet 2 together. Again, that will not alter the number of stitches I have because I have an increase and a decrease, but what it's doing is it's starting to make my work slant. So that's row 4. Row 5, we repeat row 3. So we chain 1 and turn, do a single crochet 2 together here at the start, and then single crochet in each stitch to the end, and we will put 2 single crochets in the last single crochet. We're just getting even more of a slant. It's giving that nice fin shape for the top of our shark. For row 6, we will now do 2 single crochets in the first single crochet, and then we will single crochet in the next single crochet. So single in the next, and we will do a single crochet 2 together over the next 2, and single crochet 2 together over the next 2. So we did 2 decreases there, which means we did actually decrease 1 stitch, giving us 6 single crochets at this point. For row 7, we chain 1, skip our first single crochet, and we will do 2 single crochet 2 togethers back to back. So there's 1 and 2. Then we will do 2 single crochets into the last single crochet. So now we have 4 single crochets completed. If I were to set this down and you imagine the shark body right here, this is our nice fin shape. And I have my other fin shape right here, and so I can set this one on top of that one. And you can see the double thickness here is really great because it's really going to make the fin stand up from the body. I will leave a nice long tail so that way I can seam the sides of the fin together and then just whip stitch the bottom half of this fin directly to the top of the shark. It's really just as easy as when we did the whip stitch for the back tail to the body of the shark. I will go ahead and finish this off. So let me cut this yarn. I'm going to leave a nice long tail just in case I need it, so I can use it instead of using the sewing thread. Set these 2 aside. And the last thing you are going to make is the bottom fin. Now the bottom fin is super easy, you guys. You can do this without me having to show you at all. So you will chain 6, you will single crochet into the second chain from hook and each one across, so you get 5. And then rows 2 and 3, you will work the same as rows 2 and 3 of the top fin. So for rows 2 and 3 of the top fin, you single crochet across. And then row 3, we did a decrease and an increase. Row 4, you will do single crochet 2 togethers twice and finish it off. So you get this kind of slanted little fin here, and let me show you what it looks like on the sample. As I pull this over, this is the part that this little section attaches to. So it's just one little bit. This one is not double thickness. So you only need to make one of these. Once you make that, you would seam it to the bottom of your shark. You have the two right up here. This is the portion we just made. That is the top fin, okay? So you sew that up there. The last thing for this entire shark is the eyes. And all you do for the eyes is you will use an embroidery technique called the satin stitch and some basic Red Heart Super Saver black yarn. It doesn't have to be the scrubby yarn. It's the basic Super Saver black yarn. And by this point, you can go into your scrubby. You can put your hands in place and you can kind of decide where you want to place the eyeballs of your shark. So you can plot out where you want to place those eyeballs and just use a satin stitch. If you are not comfortable with embroidery and you just want to do some straight stitches and make it really look cool, you can do that. Or if you want to use safety eyes, you could do that. You could do anything you want. So don't let the embroidery part fool you. You can do that. That's the last bit of your shark and it is complete. I think we're going to call this one Bruce. Absolutely, right? Fish are friends, not food, not food. Now you know how to make the shark puppet scrubby, and I know you're gonna run out and grab yourself one ball of each color to make this super cute scrubby. It is super easy, especially now that you have a video showing you each step of the way. You can decide to whip stitch everything together using the scrubby yarn, or you can go ahead and go pick up some of that cut or craft and button thread. It's really thick and strong thread, and use that to whip stitch everything together or backstitch things together or just thread things together, whatever floats your boat. Just make the shark your own and make it fun. I know that somebody in your life is going to really enjoy it. I hope you enjoyed this video and you'll come back here for more right here on the Marley Bird YouTube channel. If you do make the scrubby, please share with me over on my Facebook page. I'll put a link right there at the bottom of the page so you can see exactly how to do that. Just come on over, show me what you made, and let me know that I helped you along the way to make this super cute scrubby. Make sure you smash that like button, everybody, and I'll talk to you again soon. I'm Marley Bird, proud spokesperson for Red Heart Yarns. Bye! Did you enjoy this video for the scrubby yarn? I hope you did. There are many more just like this one right here on the Marley Bird YouTube channel. Be sure to check out all the other videos right here on the channel and hit subscribe so you're up to date whenever there's a new video released.